Your body is a living library of all of the things that you have gone through in your life. And if you don't know how to actually utilize the awareness that you have, you will forever be stuck in your own reality, stuck in your own thoughts, and realistically not able to manifest the life that you deserve. Hi, I'm Alexa. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Walking Manifestator, whether you're watching this on the YouTube account or whether you're checking it out on podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about how the nervous system actually plays out a huge role in what we continue to do year after year, day after day, minute after minute. Now, I also want to touch bases on some of the key points of what actually being a sovereign being means, at least to myself, and we'll touch a little bit more as we're finishing off the podcast today. But something that really caught my attention was a quote, and I want to read it before we get into everything. And this is by Steve Bow. And it says, God's gift to you is more talent and ability than you could possibly use in your lifetime. Your gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability as you can in your lifetime. And as you know, I love dissecting things. And one of the things that I took from that was, if you really think that we have all these abilities, if you really think that you're great at these abilities or you're lacking in abilities, whatever you think, we've talked about how your thoughts create your reality. And in this quote, as we're talking about the gifts and the talents that God has given you that we really can't even comprehend with our teeny weeny little brain of a human, when you really think about it, the one way that we can repay our Creator, the one way that we can repay this opportunity that we have to be here, is by trying our very best every single day to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And I think this is something that when we're talking about, in real estate, and this is something that is funny to me because if you know, I'm in real estate. Yes, I'm also a mindset coach, but real estate was the first thing that really broke me into getting past this limiting and scarcity mindset, because I actually saw the opportunities. And I've shared a little bit about my story and how when I went to actually this one event and I saw all these people talking on stage about how they were able to achieve all these amazing things in life, that kind of sparked something in me. And I think that if you're listening to these videos or you're watching these videos or you're in this journey of just self-development, it is because you're trying your very best to become a better version of yourself, whether you realize it or not, whether you're just trying to break free from all these limiting beliefs, or you're simply trying to get by, whatever it is. You could be doing anything else, but yet you're choosing to invest in the one asset that you have that is the best asset you have, which is you. So in this journey of, I brought up real estate because we talk about location in real estate, right? Location is the most important thing to look for. And if you really think about it, internally through our nervous system, we have a bunch of old stored memories that are in our nervous system that until we deal with them, we will never be able to really break free from them. And one of the things is that we're always in this quest, right, for something external to make us happy. I got a message in private of somebody telling me, they appreciate the videos. And they said this message that you shared, because I was sharing something on my story, and they said this story really hits home because I'm the type of person to really have attachment issues, and no matter how bad a person might treat me, I will stay. And I think this is something that, depending on how your upbringing was, depending on how your parents were with you, or maybe the lack of not having parents and whoever was in your surroundings, this molds you. And in reality, it's not really our own beliefs. We are adopting all these beliefs from things that we're watching, things that we're reading, things that we're hearing. And at the end of the day, it creates this avatar. that's not really you. This is why I love the question, who are you? Like the first time I heard that question, I was like, well, I'm Alexa. I'm 27 years old. I live here. I do this. I have 2 kids. I do this and this and that. And I started labeling everything that I am, right? If you're seeing the video, then I'm doing little air quotes on the video, but it was all geared around who I identified to be based off external things that I have acquired in my lifetime. But the reality is that that's not me. Alexa, when I was born, wasn't this person that had this car and this house and these kids. Alexa, without all of these things, was still Alexa. And the question of who are you, it really should symbolize, at least for myself, take this question and apply it however you feel it's fit for you. But who you are is much more than these external things that you've acquired. And you might sit here and say, Alexa, your kids are not a thing. Of course, I'm not saying that, but they're not me. You see what I'm saying? They are their own entities that I am here to help them in this journey until it's their own time to just shine and to live their own experience. I'm simply a vessel that was actually given the opportunity, the privilege to experience what it's like to have a kid, and with all its virtues and defects that it comes with, because there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. I had that opportunity, but yet they're not my identity. And you see, as parents, or even if you're not a parent, I think you can relate to this because, you know, you must be a kid to somebody, right? You must be the child of somebody. We give ourselves these labels, right? We give ourselves these labels of like, well, my parents did this to me. Well, my uncle did this to me. Well, my grandmother did this to me. We have all these external conversations and internal conversations. External because maybe you say them out loud when you're on your own, whatever the case might be, or you're constantly saying them back to people. But if you really think about it, that is not who you are. But when we're doing the deep work, when we're doing these overall awareness moments where we're telling ourselves like, okay, I am not my thoughts, I am the awareness above my thoughts, and we're going down this quest, something very important to note is that our nervous system is a living library. So it holds all the stories, all the things that we've told ourselves year after year, day after day, minute after minute. And the reason it's important to really identify, because me personally, I don't know if you can relate to this, but there's a lot of moments in my life that are just like pitch black. Like I don't remember. And you could, ask me, and as you ask me more questions, maybe I'll remember some things, but there's a lot of stuff that I have to like take moments to myself to really sit there and be like, what happened here? Where did I go blank? Where did again, this is called, us actually using something as a mechanism, as a protective mechanism to block it out, right? And not remember whatever situation happened in that moment, that we still stored it in our nervous system. We stored it in our system, that now when something else happens, something is, happening in our external reality, we react to it a certain way. We talked on the last episode about reframing the negative thoughts. And this is why in this conversation, I really wanted to talk to you about how important it is to really clear all of that junk that we have in order for us to welcome more abundance, in order for us to welcome more positivity. And going back to this attachment style, the conversation I was having with this individual, they were like, no, it doesn't matter how bad it gets, like I will stay. But it's like, why? Why do you stay? Is it because you feel like you're not worthy of love? Is it because you feel that if you leave, you're not going to find somebody else? Is it because you feel that if you do actually try and go and pursue something with somebody else, that realistically you'll never probably be treated better? But you see, what I've learned is that a lot of these conversations are just internal of courses. And what I mean by an of course is, of course people always leave. Of course that didn't work out. Of course, this person was just taking advantage of me. Of course, that new opportunity wasn't going to work out for me. You see, our verbiage, our thoughts, our words have so much power. And most of the time, when you are not aware of how you're using that power, you are using it to cast a spell against your own reality. And when it comes to these of courses, something that most of us, I think we can agree, is that we have these stories that we've identified with. We have these stories that we continue to tell ourselves. We have these stories that we continue to narrate back. And what happens is that we say, of course I'm a mom. I don't have time to go and work out. Of course I'm a mom and I don't have time to go and do anything else but take care of my kid and go to work and do the same thing over and over and over again. If I do anything aside from that, I'm a horrible human being. Why? Why are you saying that to yourself? Why is it that you're identifying with that? Is it because somebody guilt tripped you into thinking that? Is it because somebody at one point told you that in order for you to actually spell out the word success and actually show it and be a living testament of what success is that you should not do anything for you should not take any self-care days, you should not do anything to prioritize your well-being above your kids or your spouse or your friend, because then you're a bad person. You see, the nervous system is there and it's working constantly around everything that we have, that we are constantly feeding ourselves. And this is where I want to share with you an acronym. It's I.C.R.A. And I came up with this on my own, and I wanted to use something to kind of help you distinguish the things that you should take as steps to really release from this. Because everybody talks about, yeah, it's so important for you to release these negative blocks, right? It's so important for you to have a positive mindset. It's so important for you to live an abundant lifestyle, even if you don't have it. But what sometimes people say is like, well, yeah, easier said than done. Or, well, yeah, but tell me how. So I.C.R.A. is an abbreviation for identify, clear, reframe, and align. So when we're identifying, what I want you to think of is identifying what is that one thing that you notice that you're constantly telling yourself. And I shared an example last episode, which I was talking about how I had this like internal conversation constantly with myself of how people don't like me. That was just like my own internal dialogue. Why? Because I obviously growing up, I had abandonment issues. So therefore, instead of me allowing people to leave, I would do the leaving, right? Because then I don't have to get hurt, because then I don't have to worry about it, because I left you, you didn't leave me. So as I did a lot of digging, and I continuously am doing digging, this is not just a one and done, but as I was doing this digging, I realized that, okay, that internal conversation is really coming from the fact that I have this embedded subconscious, okay, because it's coming from the subconscious. It's not like I'm thinking about like, oh, I was abandoned at one point. No, like it's subconsciously, right? So we are identifying the fact that, okay, I have this belief of me telling myself internally that I am not liked. Therefore, what I am doing is now digging a little bit deeper, which I just showed you what I did, so that you can identify what is that first thought that's coming about. When we're going into the next phase of this clearing, it's understanding that it's not our reality. And this is what I mean by that. So when we have, gone through the things that we have gone through, when we have encountered the situations that we've been through, what happens is that all these events, we talked about this as well, are some scars, right? Some scars are events that happened at one point in our life that caused a internal wound, if you want to see it that way. It's a bruise that we have that we're wearing, but we have it so masked to the point where you only see it when something brushes up against it, because we didn't deal with it. Because as kids, if you were yelling and you were crying, your parents told you, stop doing that. Boys don't cry, girls don't cry. You're supposed to be very strong and you're not supposed to do this, and the list goes on and on and on, right? So we took on all these identities based off things that they told us, and they poured into our little bucket, right? And now when it comes to actually clearing it out is understanding, wait a minute, of course this is not me. Of course I'm not a shy person. I became a shy person because at one point, somebody at one point told me that I wasn't really good at public speaking. Therefore, I believed that in my subconscious mind, and I'll tell you a story about that in a second, but I believe that in my subconscious mind. Therefore, now I act like this very shy person, when in reality, of course I'm not shy. I love to talk. I am not shy. But understanding this clarification process is very important, because you can understand where this root trigger is coming from, right? You identified the root trigger. Now you're gaining clarification as to what that really means. Now, reframing is something very important, because now we can understand it's not ours to begin with. Like, if I don't like something, if I don't like pizza, it's not your problem. It's mine, right? Like, I don't like pizza and it doesn't work, and I do like pizza, okay? So don't come for me, but it's not your problem, right? Think about it. It's something that you personally like, hey, Alexa doesn't like pizza, that's her problem. And you can sit here and be like, well, that's simple, like, duh, okay? What does that have to do with my thoughts, Alexa? Well, because whatever you're going through right now, that you haven't actually identified, that you haven't gained clarity from, you are now actually not taking the time to reframe it to understand, gosh, well, this identity that I took on is actually not mine. This identity behind the fact that I don't, I don't know, let's say you don't like to travel, right? You don't like to get on airplanes. Well, it's actually not the fact that I don't like to get on airplanes, but my parents always were freaked out about it, so they never traveled. So I now subconsciously have said, I don't like to travel, but in reality, you would love to experience that, but you took on that identity. So you see how we're reframing this in order for it to really start changing this conversation that we're having internally? So I said earlier, so many people talk about, be an abundance mindset, be in an abundance mindset. Well, you need to understand, why don't you have an abundance mindset? When I was personally going through my own stuff of like really trying to energetically clean up house, I've shared this before and I'll share it again. I literally like let go of all ties, of all the old people that I knew, all the people that I used to hang out with. It got to a point where it was very, very lonely. And they often say that when you're going through a spiritual awakening, healing process, oftentimes that's what it looks like. And I'm not gonna lie, it's even up to that point still now. I've met more people and I'm very humbled and very blessed to have these people. One of my best friends, I met her in this journey. But I know that there's still more people that are coming energetically into my life, that are coming gradually as I continue to grow in awareness, because I'm not vibrating at the frequency of the old people, but I'm not exactly vibrating yet at the frequency of the new people that I want to attract. But I continue to get my awareness around, okay, this is something that came up that I have to deal with, that now I need to reframe and realign to what I really want, right? To what I am, not what I want, because I am that. So something that's very interesting here is when it comes down to these stories, right, that we're telling ourselves, these reframings. I was sharing with you that this whole like, I'm shy, right? When I would go and actually talk with people in front of there was this Toastmasters event that we would have. And basically you would have to go in front and talk in front of an audience and basically say your, whatever they were going to ask you and answer it on the spot. You didn't script it or anything. And I got involved in that because I wanted to be put on the spot and I wanted to just get comfortable doing the uncomfortable. Well, one of the times that I went up there, the first time ever, I didn't care. They literally asked me, well, I did care, but let me elaborate. They asked me what was my favorite movie. And I swear to you, I could not think of any movies. I was this geek up there standing up. I could have not recited you back any movie, although I love Harry Potter movies, so I could have said all the movies there. But no, I could not think of a movie for the life of me. And I just stood there and I was like, well, actually, I don't really watch movies, but I love to read. And actually there's this book called Becoming Supernatural and I really love it. And I kind of started going off of this tangent on what I really liked about this book. And ironically, somebody after told me, they were like, oh, you were a little nervous, right? And I didn't really realize it in that moment, but I was just like, oh yeah, I did, caught me off guard, whatever. Well, then later the next time when it came down to me, speaking again in public, that subconscious imprint that had made its way into my subconscious came about and I was nervous. I was very, very nervous. And sometimes what we can actually, we don't distinguish is that being nervous and being excited, they actually feel the same. Think about it. When you're really excited about something, you actually feel this energy building up in your solar plexus and you're kind of excited and you're just like, oh my God, I'm excited, I'm sweaty, whatever the case is, however you get, excited. But if you think about it, when you get nervous, it's the same reaction. All this energy is building up in your solar plexus. You're feeling very anxious and you just don't know what to say because you're getting a little sweaty and you're just really, really nervous, right? So reframing these thoughts into, oh my gosh, I'm very excited right now. This is gonna be great. And I know that this sounds a little silly to some of us because again, we haven't been taught these tools. But if you think about it, our mind, okay, and this has been studied time and time again, our mind cannot distinguish between what is actually real and what is not happening. So if we tell our mind, oh, I'm so happy, but you don't feel happy, it's okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But if you tell your mind and you train your mind by actively doing this over and over and over again, you're able to start aligning with that outcome that is going to allow you to now show happiness even in the moments in which you feel like there's nothing to be happy for. You see, when it comes to being a sovereign being, okay, and this is a word that I feel gets thrown out a lot, And what that basically means, right? It's being a supreme and ultimate being, a powerful being, a whole being, if you will. Okay, that's what I take from that word. Okay, and we think like, oh yeah, I'm a sovereign being. You know, I read what I want, I do what I want, I work where I want. Okay, but are you choosing those things because you truly want to choose those things, or are you choosing those things because that's the menu that they gave you and those are the options that you're choosing from the menu they gave you? Did you ever bother to ask if there was another menu? Did you ever bother to ask the chef if there's more options? And I'm using obviously a menu as an option, as an example here, but think about it. Why is it that we prefer, not everybody, maybe you're not one of those, but why is it that we prefer brands over something that was at Walmart? And like I said, not everybody, because I think that you can find really great things at Target. But the reality is because we've been conditioned to believe that something that has a brand name actually holds more in weight and value, and that's just better. It's a staple, right? You want to check that out. Rolex, like why would anybody want to buy a $100,000 watch? Because it's a staple, because it shows like, oh wow, like this person, look at the wrist, look at what they have, right? Cartier, why do people actually have the bracelet? Because obviously it's a staple. But in reality, it's only a staple because somebody gave us that as a basically like a trail to follow that says like, hey, this is how you identify as somebody with class. But in reality, the wealthiest people that I've met, the wealthiest people that I've actually come into contact with, they're very simple. And I'm not saying that this should be something that you tell yourself like, oh, I shouldn't get any materialistic stuff, or oh, I shouldn't look into that, because no, I personally think that you can be spiritually rich to the point where you're aligning with all these things that externally your inner child always wanted. And hey, if you want to do that and it's part of your journey, and maybe at one point you're going to let go of all those identifications and you don't want to do it in the future, but right now you want to do it, cool. But the point I'm trying to drive at is that when you actually realize that being a sovereign being is not realistically having all these external things and then thinking that reality is that, oh, well, I acquired this through the process of me being, you know, whole and me being an individual, when in reality, what was happening is that we were fed all of these ideas, we were fed all of these preconceived memories, all these different imprints that have come into our reality. So the last one that I really want to talk about in I.C.R.A. is aligning. Aligning is aligning with that future version of yourself. Aligning is being already in that energy of that future version of you. This is why I love manifestations, because manifestations is much, much more than just sitting in a room and meditating all day. It's much more than just shaming all the people that are doing other things that you believe are not in alignment with God, universe. It's much more than sitting around your house and lighting incense. Manifestations is the power that you hold by being a co-creator and a creator of your reality. You see, a manifestation is really understanding and going from like, I hope to an I know. I know that this or something better is going to come for me. I know that this or something better is going to happen for me. I know that in every day and every way, I am having the most beautiful opportunities present themselves to me. These are powerful statements. And the reason why I wanted to start off by talking to you about the nervous system is because until you clean up house, until you really go deep down and find out what are all these narrations that you're having internally, you will never really grow. You will never really change. You see, I personally see it all the time, especially in this world, you know, people, instead of really uplifting each other, and there's a quote that says, you know, basically how people at the top are collaborating, people at the bottom are competing with each other. And in this industry, I feel like in all industries nowadays, right, there's somebody that because they don't actually have what they want to achieve, that they compare to somebody else that already has it, they're willing to take a fast route. They're willing to take advantage of somebody. They're willing to screw somebody over. And I think that what's important here is really understanding that who we are when nobody is watching is who you really are. You see, some people sometimes might see, you know, the videos and be like, oh yeah, right, like if she acts like that all the time. I don't have to prove myself to anybody. This is who I am, and this is who I'm identifying to be. And I am constantly changing my perspective. I am constantly inviting new ideas And I never see myself as an all and be all in terms of I know everything, because the moment that you feel like you know everything, you know nothing. So it is about being humble enough to admit that we all have something that we can work on, but taking the right approach versus being in this fatalistic perspective, taking the latter and actually saying, you know what? What's the best that can happen? Of course I can manifest my reality. Of course great things happen for me. Of course I'm a walking manifestator. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode. Please feel free to join our free community. For those of you that have been following, we're up to 600 followers already on YouTube. So thank you so much. But we do have a free community where we have free guides, free overall just workbooks for you to really implement and become the best version of yourself. I do also offer coaching. So coaching is something that we've implemented to really teach you more about the art of manifestation. And we also talk a lot about cosmic creation codes. That's the course name, and codes being obviously the overall laws of the universe and how you can incorporate them into your daily routine, into your life, to really align energetically with the best version of yourself. So if that's something you're interested in checking out, please feel free to click down below. We have all the details there. But until then, I want to send you so much love. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.